The world ended in silence, not fire, not screaming, not the thunder of bombs, just silence, broken only by the faint static crackle that never left the sky. When the solar flare ripped through Earth's magnetic shield, every light went out in an instant. Power grids fried, satellites burned, and the sun itself became a dim ember behind a permanent veil of twilight. That was 3 years ago. Lena remembered the flare vividly, the way the sky had blazed blood orange at noon, shadows cut sharp as knives, and then the strange hush as if the planet itself had taken a breath and never exhaled. Her father had pulled her into the basement then, whispering promises that the flare would pass, but he hadn't survived the first winter. Very few had. Now Lena scavenged ruins with nothing but a cracked respirator mask and a rusted crowbar. The air reeked of burnt metal and ozone, and dust drifted through streets lined with cars frozen in eternal traffic jams. Cities looked like corpses, still standing, but empty of heartbeats. She wasn't alone, though. The settlement of Greyhaven clung to life inside a cluster of gutted skyscrapers. What was once downtown Chicago now served as a fortress of scavenged concrete and steel. They had hydroponics powered by scavenged car batteries, water piped from melted snow, and fire barrels burning in every corner to keep the biting chill at bay. Lena had become one of their foragers. She was small, quick, and invisible when she wanted to be, skills that made her valuable. But even Greyhaven wasn't safe. Bands of marauders roamed the twilight wastelands, desperate for fuel, food, and flesh. Tonight, she had gone further than usual, guided by rumors of an untouched hospital. Her boots crunched glass as she slipped through its skeletal entrance. The halls smelled like mildew and old rot. Her flashlight flickered weakly across abandoned gurneys, peeling paint, and a tattered sign that read, "Emergency this way." She froze when she heard the cough. Not the dry, hacking kind of the sick, but sharp, human, alive. She turned her light and caught the shadow of someone ducking behind a doorframe. "Don't move," Lena hissed, raising her crowbar like a weapon. The figure stepped out slowly, a young man about her age, with soot on his cheekbones and a jagged scar across his jaw. His hands were raised. "Easy," he said, voice low. "Name's Aric. I'm not looking for trouble." "Then what are you looking for?" "Same as you, I'd bet. Medicine, supplies, a way to last another winter." Lena studied him carefully. Trust was a luxury no one could afford, but his clothes were patched like hers, his boots cracked from long travel. Not a marauder, at least not yet. Against her better judgment, she lowered the crowbar. They scavenged together, breaking open cabinets, filling packs with bottles whose labels were too faded to read. Sometimes the drugs worked, sometimes they didn't. It was a gamble everyone took. As they worked, Aric talked in quiet bursts. He'd come from the south, from a settlement that had been overrun by raiders. He spoke of firelit massacres, of children dragged screaming into the night. His voice wavered once, just enough for Lena to recognize grief hiding under his words. "Why head north then?" she asked. "Because I heard whispers," Aric said, eyes flicking toward her. "That up here, people are building something more than scraps, something permanent." Lena smirked bitterly. Permanent doesn't exist anymore, but his words unsettled her. Somewhere deep, beneath her hardened shell, she wanted to believe him. When they returned to Greyhaven, the watchman met them with suspicion. Strangers weren't welcome, especially men with scars and stories that sounded too much like hope. "Who's this?" barked Marcus, the de facto leader of Greyhaven. His beard was streaked with ash, his shotgun always close at hand. "Someone who can help," Lena said quickly, surprising even herself. "He knows routes. He knows how the raiders move." Marcus studied Aric for a long moment, then spat into the dirt. "He stays on probation. One wrong move, he's out." Aric gave a curt nod, but Lena noticed the glint in his eyes, something that looked a lot like defiance. The days blurred into weeks. Aric worked hard, fixing broken generators, showing the foragers hidden paths through the skeletal remains of the city. Slowly, people warmed to him. Even Marcus admitted he was useful, though grudgingly. One night, as the fire barrels painted the walls orange, Lena and Aric sat on a crumbling rooftop, watching the dim glow of the sun struggle through the permanent twilight. "Do you ever wonder if it'll come back?" Lena asked. "The sun? Yeah, if the sky will ever clear." Aric was silent for a long time. Finally, he said, "Maybe it's not about the sky clearing. Maybe it's about us learning to live in the dark." Something about his words made Lena's chest ache. Hope, however fragile, has a price. It came one bitter morning when Greyhaven scouts stumbled back bloody and broken. "Raiders," one gasped before collapsing. "They're coming, dozens of them." Panic tore through the camp. Supplies were rushed inside, doors barricaded. Marcus rallied the fighters, but fear hung heavy. Everyone knew Greyhaven wasn't built for war. It was built for survival. That night, Lena found Aric sharpening a blade in the shadows. His eyes burned with intensity. You fought them before, she said. He nodded. They won't stop. They take everything. And if they can't take it, they burn it. Lena's stomach twisted. She'd lost her father to the cold. She wouldn't lose Greyhaven to fire. The attack came at dawn, or what passed for dawn in eternal twilight. Raiders surged from the fog, faces painted with soot, weapons cobbled from rust and desperation. Gunfire rattled, metal screamed against metal, and the streets of Greyhaven became a battlefield. Lena fought like a cornered wolf, crowbar slick with blood, the taste of iron sharp on her tongue. Beside her, Aric cut through the raiders with brutal precision, moving like a man who'd done this too many times before. For hours the fighting raged, until finally the survivors of Greyhaven stood among the ruins of their barricades. Smoke curled into the dim sky. The raiders had been beaten back, but at a terrible cost. Dozens of their own were dead. Later, Lena found Aric alone in the wreckage, his blade still red. He wasn't celebrating. He was staring at the bodies with something cold in his eyes. "You fought too well," she whispered. He looked at her sharply. "What's that supposed to mean? You knew their tactics, their formations, like you were one of them once." For a heartbeat, silence stretched between them. Then Aric sighed. "I was." The ground seemed to fall from under her. Aric told her everything. He had been one of them, raised in the raider camps, hardened by fire and cruelty. But he'd left, betrayed them after they murdered his brother for questioning a raid. He had wandered north, searching for redemption in a world that had none left to give. "I didn't lie," he said, voice raw. "I came here because I wanted something different. I wanted this, Lena." She wanted to trust the boy who had fought at her side, but shadows clung to him, and the settlement would never forgive. 2 nights later, the raiders returned, stronger than before. Greyhaven braced for slaughter, but they never reached the walls. Explosions lit the twilight as the raiders' own munitions detonated in their camp. The survivors fled screaming into the fog. Aric returned at dawn, soot-streaked, staggering, his hands trembling. "It's done," he rasped. "I led them into their own trap." Lena stared at him in horror and awe. He had betrayed his own blood, wiped them out completely. "You saved us," she whispered. He shook his head slowly. "No, I just burned what was left of my soul." As the sky above remained dim and silent, Greyhaven began to rebuild. They had survived another winter's dawn, not because the sun returned, but because even in the ashes of the sun, people still chose to fight for something worth living for.